Now, stay tuned to Vinyl Community Podcasts.
Large and in charge, boys. Welcome back to Vinyl Community Podcast. This is Concert Buddie bringing you the third and final, just like the end of the road, presentation of our Kiss Roundtable. If you've been paying attention or if this is your first time, we're going to talk about Kiss. I've got some real Kiss aficionados on the dais today, but without further introduction, let me introduce you to our panelists. We're going to start with Happy Kissmas himself, the God of Thunder, the War Machine, Mark Anthony K. How you doing, sir?
Greetings. How are you doing today?
Excellent, excellent. And then down in the Florida area, we've got the ringleader of the Psycho Circus, is Felipe. Felipe, how you doing?
Hey, Chance, how's it going?
Excellent.
Good. Thanks for having me.
Always.
Cool.
And then rounding out the dais, we've got fresh from MSG, and we'll get into all that, seeing the last quotation marks show of the end of the road tour. We've got Dylan, who has nowhere to run. Dylan, how are you?
Nice deep cut choice.
Yes, I'm learning.
Hell yeah, dude.
Better late than never. Well, guys, if you recall, started this journey. I kind of started because it was really, I'm being selfish. I wanted to learn more about Kiss from people who actually really cared, really knew a lot about the band. And so as a selfish pursuit, decided to put this podcast together. Now we're 3 installments. This is the 3rd installment deep. And I have seen my first and I guess only Kiss show, unless you count this Avatar thing, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I got to say, first impression, I had a good time. It was a lot of fun. Like a lot of concerts I've been to before, I would say that started off hot. Started off on, train was on the tracks, rocking and rolling. And then we kind of hit the middle, which I have to get you guys feedback. I think it slowed down in the middle. Maybe that was the Metamucil. The guys had to sit down for a second, rest their weary bones. A lot of solo work, a lot of Paul's interesting voice, which I'll have a lot of questions about. And then it got its second wind and really started, and then Gene spitting the blood, which I knew about and knew that was coming, etc. So Dylan, let's just start with you, because you were at the proverbial last show.
Yes.
What was your impression? Were there tears shed? Was there merch vendors taking anything that wasn't bolted down? Tell us about it.
Honestly, the day itself was great. I got there early. I went to the pop-up shop that was there, visited the Dress to Kill corner, got my merch before the show. Like we were saying before we went live, it was a merch scalper's paradise between all the event merchandise with shirts and posters and programs and the wristbands that you got at the show and everything. I mean, it was just, it's insane. It puts a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. But show itself, it was great. Did I cry? Yes. Could have been it could have been the beard, but I did cry a little bit.
Hang on, quick question on the crying. Was there Kiss branded tissues available at all the merch?
Nice.
Nah, Gene will have to collect that later. But no, I think it was just like the reality, like when it seeped in, like, because they were doing all the pay-per-view stuff prior to the show and everything, and I'm just like, shit, this is really it. So of course, just thinking about it, and then once the show began, like during Shout It Out Loud, like I was literally fist pumping, sobbing, and singing. It was quite the sight. But by the middle of the show, I was just like, okay, this is cool. I can roll with this. Now, was it a standard show in the sense of this was like any other show on this tour? Yes, it was. Did I accept it would be that? Yes. I do wish that maybe they could have at least mentioned, like, Bill Coyne, Neil Bogart, some of the notable people that are responsible for kind of revving up the Kiss machine early in the day. But honestly, I mean, it was a fantastic ass-kicking show. The production is second to none. They really beefed it up this final leg. And I left satisfied. That's my personal thing. I know that a lot of other fans can say differently, but for myself, I'm easy to please. I don't set the expectations too high. It was an all-around fantastic evening.
So here's my follow-up question for you, Dylan. Couple. first of all, because you went to different shows. You went to, I think, Palm Springs, right? You went,
Yes,
you went
and
to a
Hollywood
couple
Bowl.
here, yeah, and so Hollywood Bowl. This is why I asked you the first question. Guns N' Roses opened up at the Hollywood Bowl, right?
They played the couple nights before.
All right, maybe okay. I had bad information. I gotta get my handlers on. What?
Guns N' Roses.
Well, here's where I asked, because when I saw them, I gotta be honest, I was expecting a little bit more. I mean, this is the last tour, like, and there's some big Kiss fans out there. There's, like Sebastian Bach is a huge Kiss fan.
Yeah.
You would think just from, within the rock world, there would have been, our opener was this band, and I can't even keep a straight face. Amber Wild, which is Evan Stanley, Paul Stanley. See, Mark's already shaking his head. This is how I felt, because I didn't know who Amber Wild was. I didn't even research him. I thought, well, maybe they got to be a great band. This is Kiss's last tour.
Do they gotta be?
Well, I would hope. And instead we're treated to this. And again, I guess if I was Paul, I probably would have done the same thing. I don't know, but underwhelming. And these kids, they're okay, but it didn't warm my appetite. Is that who? I think that's who opened up your shows too, right, Dylan?
Yeah, they basically did most of the shows. I think in Canada, they got Crownlands opening for them, which is like a Rush Redux kind of band. Which to see that would have been great.
Okay.
Amber Wild, I thought was all right. It's Paul's son. It's in the family. It's call it nepotism, whatever. I mean, I think the songs aren't bad. They sounded pretty decent. When I saw them at the Garden, they were really, really good. The other two shows, like I felt like I got up and left during one part of their set or whatever. just to tend to something, look at merch or whatever. I was like,
maybe that was really what was going on. Is they didn't want to have an opener that could blow them away.
Sure.
And have people, you didn't want to have like Godsmack. You didn't want to have somebody that's coming in hot, And it was a great opportunity to send the people in droves to the merch tents, which is what happened. We were deciding to, let's just go and stretch our legs and go see what the merch situation was. So maybe it was actually a deep psychological ploy by the band to not only give Evan Stanley and his band a quick rub, but then also to get people out to the merch stands to make sure to buy up all this merch.
Sure.
Maybe that's it. I saw my first show in this tour. I saw in 19 and 21. It was a guy like performing, was like painting, and
the painter
music was playing.
Yeah.
But I was doing the meet and greet. I didn't see his performance.
Oh, Felipe is throwing that in. Well, Felipe raised a good point, because this tour has been going on since 2019. I think it started in Vancouver, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And so it's been a long end of the road. Now, obviously, we've got some C19 going in there. We've got a couple global events that probably prolong how long the road was.
Yeah.
But Felipe, when you saw him, did you see him on this last leg, or was it just those times before COVID?
I saw in 21 after COVID. I think they were just restarting. I was in Tampa again. So for the 19, they played at the arena, the Tampa Bay Lightning Arena.
Sure.
The second one they played at the fairgrounds. Yeah.
And what did you think of the show? Was it, because you've seen them several times, right?
Yeah, I mean, they were great. I mean, I think that's what I expect. Guys like, Kiss, the Stones, is extremely rehearsed. There's nothing unexpected. They just deliver what people want. And then, like a Paul McCartney show, I mean, I think it's kind of the same. It's not very,
very vanilla. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Very professional, right?
Okay.
My first Kiss concert was 1999, a Psycho Circus tour. They played in Brazil in a racing track. It was a huge place, so the sound kind of shitty. But the opening band was Hamstein. You guys remember them? The German.
Oh, Rammstein.
Wait,
what? Oh yeah, Rammstein.
Yeah, they opened the show. That was super cool compared to now.
Yeah.
That would have been great, especially around that time.
Yeah.
That was right around the Du Hast album, and I saw him on Family Values. There was some very interesting stage performance. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yes.
Go to YouTube if you want to see some phallic representation and some weird shit. I'm just going to say.
Yes, exactly. And they recorded a song on the Kiss My Ass record, right?
I don't know. I don't remember that.
I don't think so.
At least I think Unholy. It was like something similar to them, not them.
That was D Arts.
Yeah, the arts. Yes.
Yeah.
Similar kind of sound. Yeah.
So, Mark, when was the last time you saw this band, and did you kind of know it was probably going to be the last time you saw them?
Well, let me first say this, okay? Because I was scheduled to see them in Toronto, okay, when they were going to come by, and they canceled because Paul was sitting in his hotel room with his intravenous going on there, and recovering. Looking like a decaying corpse on bed there, but
Paul did not look like the crypt keeper. I want to stop that rumor from getting out.
But the thing that really annoyed me, like beyond like annoyance, was the fact that I wasn't going to go. Okay, I've seen Kiss so many times. I can recite their concert from beginning to end. When Paul does the whole "I want to come out and see you" and all that stuff, like, okay, I know, I've seen this 100 times. I know what's going to happen now. Basically, Kiss haven't changed their show since like 2009. Okay, it's been the same thing for a long time. But when I heard Crownlands was going to open, I was like, oh shit, okay, now this is a reason for me to go, because I love Crownlands. I've been a big the person who's talking about them all the time as much as I can. They're here from Oshawa, just down the street from where I live. Okay, they're a great band. They're a 2-piece. It's unbelievable that they have a great video themselves doing a whole concert thing in an empty club during COVID. Amazing, absolutely fantastic. These guys. And I thought for sure, this is why I'm going to go. And I even told my friend, I go, don't be surprised if I leave a quarter way through Kiss, because I'd be happy just to see Crownlands. Okay. Whoa. Because that was my reason for going. I'll be honest. I mean, look, I love Kiss. I wouldn't wear their shirt. I wouldn't, have tons of their records in my collection if I didn't love them. But, when they said they were going to retire, I think it was time, because we all know why, with the reasons with Paul and with Gene's health starting to deteriorate a bit, and he was having some issues down the line, so they gave us 50 good years, and I'm happy for that, right? That we got that much out of them. They didn't expect to go past 5. Paul even said at one point he was surprised that they would have lasted 5 years, and they did great, So I saw them back in, I think the last time I saw them, the last one I can clearly remember was when they were doing the tour with Motley Crue. That I was there for that one. The earliest tour I saw them was 96, the reunion tour, when they started back together with the original 4. That was amazing. That was easily my favorite show that I saw of them. There was so much energy in the arena, like you thought the place was going to explode when they came out. It was great. But when I saw the reunion, the last show, because I saw it on online, right? Because I didn't go to New York for it. I was always saying before on the podcast that I know Kiss, I know they're not going to do anything different on this show, but I was secretly hoping that maybe, just maybe, they would bring up somebody, even mention somebody. Sure. Even I would have been happy if they verbally said, thanks to Bruce and, Eric Carr and these people that helped us. If they even said something like that, I'd be happy. I know some of the other people are saying, maybe they'll bring up, Peter Chris when they're doing Beth. They'll bring him up on them with the piano instead and surprise the people. I said, you know what? It's a great idea, and that's why it won't happen, because Kiss are known for never doing a good idea. Every good idea that's ever been made, they've avoided it. Seriously, I mean, that's the thing on our KissFAQ that we talk about, is that every good idea that we thought of, we know it won't happen because it is a good idea. But I think at the end, everybody got what they kind of expected. If you're a diehard, especially, you knew that this was going to happen. Were we happy about it? No, because really, how hard would it have been to even have just done that, just to get Peter to just come up and just sing something? He doesn't have to drum. He doesn't have to do anything physically demanding. Just come up and do the song with Eric. Even do it together. Let him fake the piano. You can just sing. No, but I just find it. I find it sad that the diehards who have been with them for all this time didn't get to have something to hang their hat on.
Yep.
But the thing is, and this is what Kiss kind of knows, is that at this point of their career, easily 75% of their audience is walk-up general fans that, hey, I know Kiss, yeah, I remember that song, Heaven's on Fire. A lot of the people that are in the audience, and I've heard this so many times from even people that have gone to see them now. There was a guy when Daniel, the guy who we do the podcast with, he's in Sweden. When he saw them just now, he said he heard about a half a dozen different people saying, Ace really played so great tonight. These people don't even know who are in the band, because they're not diehard fans. They're just casual people who just know Kiss because of the makeup, or just know them from back 10 years ago from I remember Lick It Up or whatever. The diehard fans, believe it or not, I think are a small fraction of the people that go to the concerts now. And that's why they can get away with doing the same show over and over again, because these people don't go to every show, every tour, stuff like that. They're just, different percentile of people that go to see them, and that's it, Yeah,
but that's it, Mike. Sorry. I was actually wondering, every time there's a Kiss concert or whatever, people's like, oh, but it's not Ace and Peter. There should be Ace and Peter. And Ace and Peter, they always making those comments, oh, we're not there. This is not real Kiss. Guys, it's been like 30 years those people saying that. Why don't you move on and don't, just, it's not going to happen. Just move on.
And the fact is, and I mean, I don't know, I'm curious to hear Dylan's opinion on this, but the fact of the matter is, for the last 20 years or so that Tommy Thayer and Eric has been in there, like Tommy's played the shows much better than Ace ever did. I mean, when I saw them on the Forgotten Cities shows that they did right after the reunion in '96, there was like a Lost Cities tour.
Yeah,
Ace was already, he was off his rocker already then. Like when he played in Hamilton, he was pretty sloppy, and at one part of the show, he completely fell backwards on his rear end, and Gene looked at him and started shaking his head, and the roadie started coming out, and Gene looked at the roadie and shook his head and go, no, don't pick him up, leave him there. And they literally left him until the lights went off, and then the roadie came up and grabbed him and picked him up. I mean,
yikes.
Honestly, Tommy has done a stellar job. He did a great job, being the Ace freely. And Eric Singer, what can you say about Eric? He's been fantastic. Dylan, what do you think?
Yeah. 100% I'm with you. I think both those guys, Eric and Tommy, are more than worthy of wearing the face paint, and also they get the job done, because if you think about the intricacies of this show, and everyone talks, oh, I would go if Ace was there, oh, this and that, they would not fucking last, because it's such an in-depth, intricate show, which maybe lends itself to why they get away with playing the same set list every night. I mean, my argument personally for this last gig, and I mean, for you guys obviously know, they do all those pre-show sound checks where they play the deep cuts. If they can rehearse those songs for a couple hundred people, why don't you polish them up even further for 20,000 people? Give us Got to Choose. Give us Hotter Than Hell. Throw in fucking Plaster Caster, please. I mean, they were playing Shock Me. Shock Me, as far as I know, was the stage staple. The couple times I've seen them around the early 2010s, they were playing that song. So, I mean, that's the one thing that kind of bothers me. It's like, those songs so well. Why don't you just throw those in? I can do without hearing maybe Do You Love Me or, something. I don't know. That's my argument. But no, 100%. Tommy and Eric are more than worthy of wearing the face paint, and, I will defend them to my dying day, 100%.
And it's an excellent point too, because of the fact that if they had an issue with Paul's voice, and maybe we would have to make some separate backing tracks. We don't have to worry about that, because if Gene's going to sing it like Plaster Caster, then you don't have to worry about it. You know what I mean? Gene can pull it off.
I mean, don't even get me started on that Paul and Tommy thing after Making Love. Come on, I don't get me started on that.
I know. That thing is such a waste of time.
For real.
I was getting the oven mitt because, Dylan, you're getting so nuclear hot. I figured this because you won't be able to touch a keyboard.
It's pure passion, dude. This is why being a fan of this extent sucks sometimes.
I'm with you. Well, I got some questions, guys, because being my first show, I observed a lot, and I tried to take it in from the point of, first time, no judgment, just go to have a good time. And I did. Like I said at the beginning of the show was awesome. the pyro on point, and I didn't go in thinking I was hoping there may be a little bit of variation, because I'm like a lot of people. I'll look at like setlist.com or whatever and kind of just get a feeling, more so I can know how to beat traffic, because I'm an old now, so I need to know when I can take my bathroom breaks and know when I can beat traffic. I'm just being honest. It doesn't matter if it's Metallica or whoever. So, is it safe to say? And I noticed the set list was pretty consistent everywhere, so I was ready for that. But what and Eric, Mark, sorry, you kind of brought this up about. I was thinking about Eric playing the piano.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really think about it when I'm watching the show, but I found out online later that his fingers don't exactly match the piano.
Yes.
So now it's pulling back the onion, the layers of the onion, because what other kind of chicanery was I subject to? Because there are some times where Paul was moving around, and he's got the chicken arms swinging and all this, and he was doing this shaky. Well, first of all, let me ask you this: this voice that Paul has, has this always been? It felt like Shecky Green or some kind of, like I saw one reviewer called it like a mix between a car salesman and like a drag queen convention, because of this very interesting voice. Is that standard? Does Paul always use this really like, how's it going? Is that standard? Guys, help me.
Want to go first, Dylan?
I think he was more passionate before his voice started to go a little bit. Like, I think the first time I saw them was 2004, and his stage raps were just on fire. And now it's a bit more tame, family friendly kind of, at least to my ears, at least. Hell, you can listen to the bootlegs of the Animalized tour, and you can see his vocal gymnastics at an all-time high. But yeah, it seems like he's mellowed out a bit more, and it's more simplified now.
Okay, well, let's talk about the rumor, because once I kind of learned this, the Bride of Frankenstein situation. We're not even touching the keys. Then I did a little more research and read some of these reviews on this tour, and there was a lot of calls for alleged backing vocals and tracks and this sort of thing. So I saw a quote that Doc McGee was like, "Oh no, Paul's out there singing." So Mark, you're laughing. I mean, has this been standard fare for years? I mean, these guys, in fairness, these guys are up there, right? So respect for what they do and how they do it. And I'm not opposed to, you got to dance, you got to fly on the zip line out, and you want a little help in the backing vocals. Mm-hmm. But like I said, like once I saw the fingers and the keys and Eric, like then I felt like somebody told me there was no Easter Bunny. So
yeah,
has this always been standard fare in a Kiss concert?
Let's put it this way: there was a time back, and I'm sure Dylan will testify. I'm sure Felipe will say as well, where Paul was singing everything live, and every time they did a review of the show, it's like, God, what the hell's wrong with Paul's vocals? It sounds terrible. He's so out of key, and holy crap, what the hell's going on? Yeah. So then they rectified it. For this tour, he's singing to tracks. There's no way around it. He is actually singing to backing tracks. Now, sometimes at the beginning of the show, like Detroit Rock City, he might start singing live with it. But it's very clear to see after a while where they kind of like bring in the backing tracks and take him out of the mix when he starts getting a little hoarse in the voice when he's singing, So, and I mean, look, I mean, they want to get through this tour, okay? If you would have told Paul that he's going to do 200 and some odd shows with his regular voice, I don't think he would have survived past 50 shows the way it is now. So they had to do what they had to do. Now, there's great videos online where you can see Paul coming to the microphone late and there's vocals going on. There's times where Eric Singer screwed up a part in a Psycho Circus and they entered in too early, and then all of a sudden vocals come in and they're too late, and just complete derailments happening on stage. And that's the thing, though. If you're going to be doing that, you got to make sure you're spot on every single night, right, with that stuff, because you're following a click. And I mean, I have a couple of broadcasts or recordings of the show that I got through certain people, where I have a monitor mix of one of the shows where you can hear right off the top. It's like Detroit Rock City 1, and that's their ear monitor stuff that they're hearing. You're hearing the click. You can hear all the backing stuff too when it's coming in, and the count-ins in between parts, like chorus part 1, 2, 3, like that, so that they know where they are, so they don't get lost in the song, right?
Are those the shows from Japan?
Yeah, that, and there's a couple of other ones too in the U.S. that leaked as well.
Oh,
right?
wow.
Yeah. And even like Roger Waters is a great one of him doing his show back in the 2000s, where it's completely down to the notation, chorus part F sharp. Everything. Like I was like, wow, this is like unbelievable. But look, they want to get through the tour. They needed to do it, and it happens. The biggest shocker I thought that I realized was, and I didn't really notice it until I watched a few times really, really more closely, is when Gene goes up for God of Thunder. Yeah. When he's up there, they're using backing tracks for him. Because it's no secret that Gene has a complete fear of heights. Okay, right, and the fact is, it's not so much as that, but I think it's just to be safe. In case something happens, he might have a misstep or something or whatever, and he might stop singing for a second. Mm-hmm. You don't want to make it seem so obvious, right? But when he's down again, he's singing. But they're using it in certain spots. But look, they're doing it now because look, the guys are in their 70s. They're getting a bit tired and a bit worn out, so they needed to finish up the tour. And I don't think there's really too big a shame at this point for that.
So I want to read you a quote because I did a little homework on this one, guys.
All right.
And so Nikki O'Neill from Chicago Tribune attended a performance in Chicago, and this goes back to that interesting voice that Paul uses. And this was quoted as, "The voice can be best described as a mix of Southern rock and roll preacher and fired up drag queen." Is that what I was hearing? Because I couldn't make heads or tails of it, because I've heard him do interviews. I've seen the fitness tape he did in the 80s, but I think I know what this guy sounds like, and this like weird. I just couldn't put it again. It's clearly not something new to the performance, but I don't know. It felt a little contrived. Like Gene, spitting the blood and all the, Tommy Thayer shooting stuff with his guitar. Like I was ready for all that. I wasn't, a noob to that piece, but I wasn't ready for this voice of, used car salesman and fired up drag queen.
Actually, the thing is, Paul always said that he wanted to be known as a rock and roll preacher. That's how he kind of wanted to approach it, right?
Okay.
So he was all like, listen, my brothers, we're here for rock and roll. Like that's the kind of thing where he wants to, what he wants to do, right? And it's very clear. Early days he did it, and the Dylan's right too. In the 80s, it was very, listen, all you do, nothing but cursing and swearing like crazy through there. Oh yeah, I went and saw the nurse the other day to show her my love gun and all this stuff. All the kinds of like stories that he would say, but as it's gotten older, and Dylan's right, like it's become much more family friendly now because there are a lot more like multiple generations coming to these shows now at the end, especially. So I don't think there's any more stories about Paul showing his love gun to a nurse anymore, right? So, but it's. I think also it's kind of silly when you think about it. It's like, how does Gene feel singing Christine 16 at 70 some odd years old when he's singing, that? Like, I mean, he must feel odd.
I'm glad that they don't play that anymore. I mean, as much as it's a key track in the early period, I'm glad they don't do it.
Well, maybe in a few years he's gonna sing "Going Blind," right? So he's gonna
Good one. That's good.
Nice work, Felipe.
He's gonna catch up in the age there. Yeah, 93.
Yeah.
So all in all, it seems like I probably got the right experience. I got the formula. I got the pyro. I got all the hits I knew. I don't even think there was anything off the top of my head I didn't hear. I heard. I like War Machine a lot. Like that was the one that because that was like the third or fourth track in. And I was like, it's pretty good. And like I said, the middle of the show. I think they are getting their IVs. They're getting some Gatorade baths. All that kind of stuff. So that was a good time to just kind of like, because my son went with me and he was fired up when it started. He was like, oh, yeah, it's Kiss, blah, blah, blah. But he was really invested at the beginning, and then they lost him about middle of the way when they started, so much talking to the crowd, and Paul doing the left versus right part.
Yeah.
And I know that's all like that's old carny rock and roll stuff. But anyway, so well, one thing that kind of came out of I guess the New York show, and I think we talked about this on the last Kiss Roundtable for VCP is what do we think this would what would happen at the end of the tour? Is there, Dylan, you had brought up maybe a residency could be in the cards in Vegas. I guess, and I didn't see this till the night after that final MSG show, but apparently there's something avatars or something. So Dylan, tell us about this because, and maybe is this straight holograms, or are they expecting to take this on the road and charge regular arena pricing to watch a cartoon? Like what's going on here?
All right, so I'll give you guys some insight, and I won't spoil everything because I do plan on doing a whole video dissecting everything. It's essentially the same thing that ABBA is doing right now with their whole ABBA Voyage show. Same companies too. ILM, which is George Lucas's effects company, and then Pophouse, which Bjorn of ABBA has started. So they're basically doing that. And here is my thing with the holograms. You know, it's been talked about for a long time that there was the idea of a Kiss 2.0 going out, younger guys with the makeup and everything. Personally, for me, Kiss without Gene and Paul, it's a weird thing. So I think maybe they're playing it safe by going down the hologram route and having both them as well as Tommy and Eric do all the motion capture and everything. So it's still Kiss and it's going out as that. Here's my problem, and this is why I'm in the middle. It was the timing that killed it. Because, think about it. Let's look at it at face value. They just said a new era is beginning, and they gave us a sample. They gave us nothing about this is a traveling show. We're setting up camp at a venue somewhere in the United States or elsewhere. Mm-hmm. They just said, here is our newest venture, and this is what we're doing. I think because it seems like this is being further developed, if they just waited maybe a year, 2 years, build up that demand and let some time pass, then pull it off. It just seems like they were really quick to show that, and that's a major gut punch for those that were so emotionally invested in this evening to where it pisses off a lot of fans, and I understand why. Whereas for me, I see it as they're adapting to modern technology, which is great.
Sure.
I don't know if it's going to be for me. I don't know if it's going to be for Mark or Felipe, because we live to see the guys.
Yes.
And Gene and Paul always make this argument that it's the personas that they'll know, not the people behind them. And that kind of sucks to hear because I don't know about you guys, but I have strong emotional ties with the guys behind, the makeup. So, is it going to be for generations down the line that didn't live to see them back when they were an active touring band? Sure. But I also see it as a spectacle that goes beyond the realm of a traditional rock show, and it's probably going to be as, cutting edge as it possibly could be, but I won't know until I see it. Will I see it when it happens? Yes, and that's when I'll get more of a firm grasp on that.
Well, before I kick it to Mark and Felipe on this one, I'm just going to give my quick 2 cents because I'm with you, Dylan. I think there's nothing wrong with trying this concept out. My fear is that is exactly like you said, the emotional connection to the people, especially Gene and Paul, I think is going to be missing. And more so, I could see this being like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen The Legends. It's like this touring, they have some steady, basically like your Dolly Parton impersonator, your Michael Jackson, that kind of stuff. They've got like tent poles in like Las Vegas, Branson, Missouri, etc. I see this being the same thing. I have a hard time thinking that they can take this on a tour and play arenas. I don't even know, theaters. Like it's just I think it's something that I don't know if people really connect with in a big way. Maybe the first go around, but maybe at some point this just has a permanent place in those places I'm talking about, Vegas, Branson, these kind of touristy things. So Mark, what do you think about this concept? Is this a continued money grab while they're alive? They just want to cash in on this, or what are your thoughts on this Avatar situation?
Well, first of all, I think Dylan's 100% right about the bad timing, because I remember when I was watching this and they had this thing on their site, they had a countdown timer and like the new era, and everyone's like, what the hell's going to happen? Everyone's like so excited, what is it? And then I remember reading this, I couldn't stop laughing. it comes up, they show this, avatar thing comes up, and somebody wrote in the chat thing, what, they're doing another Scooby-Doo movie? And I'm like, no, I'm like, it's an Avatar thing, because people are like, what is it supposed to be a comic thing or what? I'm like, okay, so obviously some people who are not in the know of what avatars are clearly had no clue what the hell was going on. And even Julian told me that within the arena that I've seen, like, a lot of people were scratching their heads after they saw it on the screen there. They're like, what did I just see here? Like, what does this mean? Like, like, the people were kind of unclear of what the avatars were going to be doing, because look, not everybody's in the know about this ABBA thing that's going on, right? So, and if everybody did, then maybe it might be clearer, right? Mm-hmm. Now, the other thing that I think people need to be aware of is that people are saying, well, this is going to totally work. Like, this is all the, some of these real diehard Kiss guys, they're like, this is definitely going to work. Look at ABBA. It's working out great for them. And I keep thinking to myself, and I told one guy too, I go, dude, you can't compare ABBA to Kiss. I'm sorry. ABBA has like 10 times the audience that Kiss has. They have 10 times the money that Kiss have. For the ABBA, this is nothing. And didn't you even say that Bjorn's like probably one of the co-founders of one of the companies that started it? So of course, then and don't forget, these guys were very smart with money. Back in the day, they were putting all of their money into stock market bonds and all kinds of stuff, and they made huge money over the years, right? And they're smart with their money, and they know about technology, and they fund a lot of it. And look, Paul Stanley and Gene always seems to say that all around the world, everybody knows who Kiss is. Yeah, okay. But I think there's a lot more people who know who ABBA is than Kiss does. The percentile is different. So if ABBA's doing great with it, that's because they're very popular. I mean, they turned down $1 billion to do one show, and they also turned down a huge money to do a comeback tour. Okay, so the demand for ABBA is there. Kiss, okay, they did pretty good, but I don't think the numbers are going to be the same. I think that's sort of, people need to keep that in mind here. Now, will it be good? I don't know. I'm not. We've only I saw that little segment that they did afterwards with the sit down with Paul and Gene, where they were saying that it looks good, but it's not the final version of it yet. And that's another thing I think that they made a mistake with, is that, why are you showing us stuff that's not complete yet? Because people are saying Paul looks a little weird in it, and why did they use chubby Gene for the avatar?
His face is so deformed. What is up with that?
Yeah, so why would you show us that? Why not wait until it's actually at its peak,
interest,
performance?
Like some teasers, some little nuggets, get exactly what you guys are talking about. Have something that kind of stirs the interest. Like, are they going back on the road again? Like, are they doing a resident? Like, what does this mean? And instead of, they just shot their load. And Dylan, I wanted to ask you, because had you left the venue when they showed the video at the end of the MSG show? What was your first impression?
So literally, like, when the band stopped, like, they were on these risers, big thing of dry ice and smoke obscuring them, and then the video starts. So it was kind of one of those things. It's like, what are we witnessing? I mean, I knew right then and there, it's like, holy shit, like, we are seeing something brand new that is now being unveiled. And then, for a lot of people, it's like, what the hell is this? I think I'm putting together a vlog of my travels, and I even said on camera, I said, what the hell is this? But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I think at the time, like, I was very not excited about it, but I tried to kind of give Kiss some leeway on it. But as time has passed, I'm just like, I'm taking a step back. I'm like, okay, I see where this could be a misstep. I think this was merely an exercise in taking an idea and a pursuit that they're doing, and they thought that it would be perfect timing to, wrap up an MSG and then just say, bam, this is it. Where if they just fizzled out and just ended the show right then and there, then whatever, that would have been fine, But I don't know. When there is an announcement of something and I see it for myself, then that'll determine it. I just don't know why they would show a work in progress.
Yeah. What about you, Felipe? What do you think?
I totally agree with you guys. I think it was bad timing. You can raise some expectations, wait, put it on the back burner, let people not talk about you, and then they'll just come back out of the blue. And I think the whole idea of these avatars, right? I don't know. I mean, it might work really well, as you said, Mark, for a pop band, huge thing. You know, people go to see like DJs playing, but they're not even like playing like a
Yeah.
band, you know. So I think in a pop scenario that works really well. I don't think like a hard rock, more like metal, whatever you want to call it, audience would be willing to go to an arena to see that. If I can watch on HBO someday, I'll watch, but I don't want to pay like $100 and go to an arena to watch avatars.
That was exactly my thought. Like, what is the price point, and how expanse do they think that this can go? Like, again, if it's like a very like stationary concept and like a tourist place, okay, maybe that has some kind of staying power. But as I told somebody when we were talking about it when I first heard about it, would I pay like you said, $50 is exactly what I'm thinking, Felipe. Would I pay $50 to go sit in the same arena I just saw this band in to watch a Scooby-Doo cartoon or whatever it could be? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm making a joke, but I just can't. I'm not there yet. I'm not saying maybe one day that I don't change in that sense, but you go back to some of this kind of configured holograms. Like, remember the Tupac hologram?
Yeah.
That one year. That was something that had never been done before. It was very interesting. They did the Roy Orbison. So they're really kind of, and I understand from a longevity play, they'll probably do it with the Beatles once Paul and Ringo are gone. They'll probably do something like that. So I think there's a place for it, but literally right after you stop the end of the road tour, the execution I think was I wouldn't say fatally flawed, but it was just was kind of like a wet whistle, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Definite slap in the face, because I think Paul even said on the microphone at the show, he said, the end of the road is the beginning of another. And I'm just like, really? Like, in hindsight, I'm like, seriously? But I will bring up this one point, and then this could be the last that we discuss the avatars, and we can move on to other stuff. I think it's the aim of the angle that they're going in with how Kiss is going to do it, because it seems like they're really honing in on the personas.
Right.
And it seems like they're going for the more superhero kind of thing. Like, Gene has fire coming out of his eyes and he's breathing
wings,
Yeah, like Tommy's levitating, Paul's shooting lasers out of his hands. Like, I think it's taking a little bit away from the band aspect.
Yeah.
Whereas with ABBA, like, yeah, they did the mocap and everything, but it's as if you're seeing them like back in the late 70s, back when it was peak ABBA. But from a financial standpoint, and maybe this enticed Kiss to go down this route, from what I've seen on just bare bones, just Wikipedia, whatever, whether it's fact or false, near perfect attendance records, $2 million per week. And whether that's ticket revenue or merchandise or whatever. So you can only imagine they just saw the dollar signs and thought, okay, this is our future. This is what we're going to do. The numbers will speak for themselves when it happens. And if it's a flop, then you know what? Look, think of the many flops Kiss had over the years. You know what I was just reading about?
Many.
Know what I was just reading about before we went on? The Monster book.
Oh, yeah. They had the balls to show that during the interview.
The biggest head-scratching Kiss thing I ever saw.
So for the uninitiated, what is that?
Mark, you explain.
Okay, the Kiss Monster book is this great idea that they thought they had, where it was literally the size of a coffee table, this book, okay? It literally takes two people to turn the page of this book, okay? Like, one on each side of the book, because it has to like be like turned open like this. And the biggest insult about it was because people got excited about this book at first, but when they told them that it was multiple thousands of dollars to buy this book, like $2,000-$3,000 for a book, people are like, "Are you insane?" Like, and the lady asked them point blank, because they I couldn't believe they actually had one there during the interview for the avatars. They had the book there, and Gene's all proud of it. Yes, this is our monster book, And the lady actually looked at her and goes, "Did you actually sell any of these books?" And he actually looked at her and was like, "Well, we sold a few." Like, it's like, yeah, maybe like 6, maybe. So maybe the most richest fans that you had bought this, because I don't know. I personally don't know anybody, okay? And we've even asked on our podcast and like all over the place, we've asked people, do you even know anybody who owns this book? I don't know a single person who has a copy of this book. So, I mean, this monster book is just such a bad idea,
Yeah.
God.
Head scratcher. head scratcher.
Well, guys, what if I told you that I had the monster book and it is glorious?
Yeah.
No, just kidding. All right, well, we're kind of coming around third and bringing it home. Let's talk about the tour is over. The band is going to continue on in some way, shape, or form that's still kind of taking shape. Let's go kind of around the horn. And Mark, I did a terrible job of plugging. You talked about the podcast. You are a regular on the KissFAQ podcast. I think I did a better job talking about it last time than this time. So let's get that out of the way. But tell me your thoughts. Like, what is the lasting legacy of Kiss to you, Mark?
Well, to me, it's always been going to be the music, because to me, that's the thing that I'm most connected to with Kiss. And I'm also a big bootleg concert guy. I mean, I have a lot of their shows, like, 77 Largo and, 76 in Houston. And yeah, there you go. And I got Winterland, and I have so many shows that when they recently had a huge leak of shows that came out. I made sure I grabbed those as well. For me, it's always been about the music. I mean, even when they had some of these ridiculous things that they tried to do that didn't work, like Kiss World back in '79, when they tried to do a traveling amusement park thing that didn't work, and it didn't even get off the ground, apparently, because it was so difficult to do. But to me, at the end of the day, it's always been about the music. I've always enjoyed the records. I have a pretty vast collection, just like Dylan has a vast collection of stuff. I mean, I don't know many people who own 17, 18 copies of Kiss Alive, right? Like I got a pretty ridiculous amount of multiples I have. Yeah, but exactly,
Would those fit in a monster book if you put them inside?
But I mean, the thing is that I've always connected that way. So I mean, whenever they did some other things, like, when they did, like, for example, the Scooby-Doo movie that they did a little while back, I wasn't really necessarily against it, because I thought it was a good idea to kind of reel in a younger generation of people to the band at that point, right? And it helped with my nephew. He was pretty young when that came out. When we got it for him for his birthday, he loved it. And then it kind of connected him to who Kiss was, and then there you go, right? But, I think the legacy of Kiss is going to continue. I mean, they have an online store, and all the diehards always buy stuff off of there. I mean, me and Dylan are always waiting desperately to buy the next colored vinyl that comes out. But I've always had a prediction. I've always had a prediction about this, that down the road sometime, Paul and Gene are going to be secretly grooming their sons to take over this band. I think Evan's going to step in. I think Nick Simmons is going to. Nick can do it easy. He looks just like his father. He's tall like him as well. I mean, if he just, and he can play instruments too. He can do stuff. Same with Evan, and if they groom them properly behind the scenes, why not make them
grooming musicians? I want to be very clear.
Why not make them the 2.0? Because I think people will be way more accepting if somebody named Stanley and Simmons taking over their father's position, right?
I might be accepting of that.
Well, Felipe, what about you? I mean, I know you were quick when I mentioned that I was doing this roundtable back months ago. You sent me that snapshot from the meet and greet. You were all in with 2 feet. What is the lasting legacy of Kiss to you?
I go with Mark. I think it's about the music. I was first aware of Kiss when I was like 4 or 5, when they went to Brazil in the insane shows. And it was all about the image, of course. And years later, when they're unmasked, people barely knew they're still playing. And I went to a used store and I bought Killers just out of the blue. I said, I have to have this. I think Revenge was coming out. And I really connected to the music. And then I started buying the other records. And I think it's very emotional. I mean, to see a band that you grew up with, now they're stopping. But I get to the commercial part. I mean, they were huge. I mean, if you're the biggest thing in the world for like a few years, you gotta profit on that, of course.
Yeah.
So I don't think I would do different if I were there.
So what you're saying, Felipe, is that the legacy of the band is not the restaurant. Was it Rock and Brews? Or
fantastic, by the way.
First time I went to LAX, they have one there.
Yes, they have one at the airport. That was the first time I saw it, and I was like, "What is this?" And it was so mid. It was mid was being generous. Like it was just it was, and they actually have one in St. Louis, believe it or not, and it is mid is being generous. But anyway, I digress.
And they do back in the 80s. I mean, Mark remembers. You remember, man. All we had like were magazines and record covers, nothing else. So
yeah,
the bands, they acquire this huge dimension to you. I mean, you connect with them. Everything you see, anything you hear, you just idolize bands in general, especially Kiss, how big they were. So to me, it's part of my growing up. It's part of a music background. Playing those records over and over and over. I think that was immense to me, and that's what I'm gonna keep. All those afternoons, putting all the record covers together to make like a panel.
yeah.
It was so cool. It was the greatest thing ever, and I'm glad that they were able to write this super catchy songs. Most of the records, some of them are kind of passable, but most of it, I think it was great to me. So I'm glad that I saw them a few times, and it's just great. It's great. Jess, I'll keep the music to myself. And a few moments I saw them, and to be so distant, being abroad, to have the chance to meet and greet them, it's just like out of this world. To you guys, it must seem like a little more mundane, but growing up abroad is just something different for sure.
So Dylan, giving you last word on this one. What? Obviously, you saw the last show. Obviously, it goes without saying, big fan. What is the lasting legacy of Kiss?
I very much second what both Mark and Felipe have said. It's the music that will always retain with me. It's what drew me in. But one thing that really resounds with me, especially as I got older, I feel like I took it for granted when I was younger growing up as a fan, but it means something now, is the ideology of Kiss. It's believing in yourself, self-empowerment, positivity. And that is something that I always apply to everything that I pursue with both my professional pursuits as the record spinner, as well as just personally. Like with everything that I do, there's a little bit of Kiss DNA in there. And it's because of my having the upbringing that I had of just growing up, seeing them in concert since I was a kid. The first Kiss show I went to was 2004. I was 6 years old. And, the first Kiss album I ever got was Love Gun when I was 2. So like having that upbringing, those were my idols, and they always will be. And that's something that I can easily carry on into my now late 20s. Yikes. But it's just, regardless of whether if they're active or not, they're always going to be a part of my life in one form or another. Whether it's just going to be the record collection that I can easily enjoy and listen to at my disposal, or relive, watching concert footage, or just, anything like that. In whichever medium they exist in, it's always a part of me. So something that I retain. And I always say, and this will be the last thing I say, I've loved them as much as I did back when I was younger, but still that Kiss fandom keeps the kid in me alive a little bit. It retains that little bit of innocence.
That's awesome. Hey, Felipe, can you hand Dylan one of those Kiss Kleenexes we were talking about? Do you happen to have any of those? Getting a little misty in here. No, good stuff, guys. Well, we started this little roundtable back in the spring, like I said, where I hadn't been to a Kiss concert. Now I've been to a Kiss concert, so I have a better point of view, and I can definitely see what the attachment to the music, to the story, to longevity. Like, kind of one thing we didn't really touch on, and maybe I missed it, is the fact that these guys are kind of going out, air quotes, on their own terms. Sometimes you have sudden death, or sometimes sometimes they kind of went on our own tour, and it's hard to do. And now whatever the future of these avatars, that's all to be written still. But I give them props, and I had a good time at the show, and I can see what it's about. So
hell yeah, dude.
Oh yeah,
good stuff. Well, guys, again, a lot of fun. Just gonna thank my guests, Mark Anthony K, Projekt Gemineye, also the KissFAQ Podcast. Thanks for joining us, Mark.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Felipe, without his Jazz Bums attire and Jazz Bums lead, closet, not even closet, just I don't think a lot of people knew what a big Kiss fan you are, but now they know. Surprise, surprise.
I love it.
Surprise, Felipe, thanks for joining us. And the youngest, and some I tell you what, Dylan, outside of Mark, I mean, we need to have an ultimate Jeopardy or some kind of showdown. Flex this Kiss knowledge and winner take all. Maybe you get that monster book we were talking about. So Dylan, the record spinner, thanks for joining us, sir.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And that was another trip around the turntable. Thanks for listening to Vinyl Community Podcasts.